Introducing you to people across North Carolina and around the world who put their Catholic faith into action. This is FaithWorks on Catholic 540 AM Divine Mercy Radio. Now, here's your host for FaithWorks, Ellen White.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of FaithWorks on Divine Mercy Radio. Our show highlights individuals through God's grace who put their faith into action daily. Amazing people who have an interesting, sometimes overlooked, impact on our Catholic faith. On FaithWorks, we share their stories. I'm your host, Ellen White. Today on the show, we're joined by a group of incredible students from Cardinal Gibbons High School here in Raleigh who recently traveled all the way to Rome to attend the Jubilee of Youth, a powerful gathering of young Catholics from around the world. We're excited to hear about their journey, their experiences, and how this pilgrimage has impacted their faith. Welcome to the studio. It's so great to have you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's so awesome. I love it. All right. So I want you each to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role or grade. I guess grade would be appropriate at Cardinal Gibbons. We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Grayson. I'm going into my senior year at Cardinal Gibbons.
Okay.
I've been involved in spiritual life there for about 2 years now. So when our priest, Father Luke, told us about this trip, I was super excited to hear about it. I've never been to Europe before, so that was something new for me. But I think what was most special was the opportunity to see so many other Catholic youth. I've got to experience that in smaller portions before on retreats and stuff like that. But it just made me so excited to go to Rome so I could see all these other people and connect with them.
Beautiful. Okay.
My name's Natalia. I'm going to be a rising junior this year, and I've been involved with spiritual life at Cardinal Gibbons since my freshman year, and have definitely seen my faith grow and grow with my relationship with those around me a ton in my time at Gibbons. And I have to thank Father Luke a lot for that because he does a really great job at incorporating spiritual life and making it fun and youthful and really attracting us to the faith and to Christ. And kind of along the same lines as Grayson, just about a year ago, we heard about this opportunity and I was like, I need to go on this. Truly seeing the church so alive, at the heart of the church in Rome, just 2,000 years of history, seeing it live, I knew I needed to experience that. And being around all my favorite people at the same time was just so incredible.
You know, I have to say at the outset, before we get to you two, that I'm feeling inklings of Pope John Paul the Great with us. I mean, and I'm getting goosebumps from head to toe just saying this, that his impact when he would do world youth events or speak in large groups in Denver. I'm still hearing stories from people when he came to Denver. I don't know. I think Pope Leo is going to do some things in the church. Okay, next.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'll also be a rising senior.
Okay.
I heard about this trip about a year ago on a retreat with Father Luke. He told me about it, and it really interested me, and it was something that I'd always wanted to do, especially hearing stories from my mom about her experience with World Youth Day when she was younger. And then going on the trip, similar to Grayson, it was my first time in Europe, but I think it was so much better going as a pilgrim rather than a tourist. Just visiting all the churches rather than being a tourist, but going to pray and visiting all the tombs of the popes and the saints. And I mean, it was amazing. It was very... What's the word?
Inspiring.
Inspiring, yeah. Inspiring to me. And it really helped me grow my faith.
You know what's so interesting about this is that, and I don't even know if you realize this or not, but you are inspiring us. You might think it's the other way around, that you draw so much from the adults in your life that are living faithfully, but it's a two-way street. We get it from you too. All right.
Hi, my name's Abby. I will also be a senior at Cardinal Gibbons. I first heard about this trip at my brother's graduation party after my sophomore year. Okay. And Father Luke was telling me about, well, first he said, we're going to have so much great Italian food. And then he told me about the experiences of meeting the other pilgrims and seeing all the churches and seeing the history of the church alive. And I realized that that's something that I really wanted to experience, especially after hearing about the group of Gibbons students that went to World Youth Day in Portugal in 2023. Uh-huh. So I really thought that it would be a really meaningful experience for me and my faith, and I'm grateful for the experience.
So all of you, so you traveled internationally before, I get, right?
I've been to Costa Rica, but that's
Okay,
it.
okay. So none of you have traveled internationally before.
Well, I've been to Niagara Falls.
Okay. Just on the other side
Right.
of the New York side, you were in Canada, so a little international. Wow. So international travel in and of itself is quite an experience, and seeing other cultures. Let's start with you, Grayson. What was that like for you to travel to Europe? And I mean, there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, I've been around the Americas before. I've been to
Okay.
Costa Rica and Mexico.
Okay.
But yeah, first time to Europe, as I said before, and it was so like just beautiful. Like all the architecture and stuff.
Yes.
Like it's very different than what you find in the Americas, especially in the United States. Like it's a lot more diverse, but their culture there is a lot more kind of set in stone.
Yes.
Which there's pros and cons to both, obviously, but it was something very cool to experience. Like everywhere you went, it's beautiful buildings, and they all kind of like blended together. Like they all just looked well together. It wasn't like you had a beautiful building over here and then one that looks totally different on the other side. Like it all, looks like it should be in the same city. So that was obviously amazing. And then the food was so good. Like once we found a good spot to go to for lunch, like we went back. It was just so good. We just had to go back, and everywhere you went, you're probably gonna get a good meal. We had one bad experience. We had some weird meatballs, but
What about your experience, Natalia? What was it like for you?
So this was, I'd say, really my first time traveling internationally. Like I've been to Canada, but again, kind of feels like you're still in America. But it was incredible. I mean, coming in, you can just feel the difference. Like the ambiance is completely different. Like Grayson was saying, like it's very set in stone. Like the people around you, it's just it almost felt like home. Like weirdly enough, when we were in Assisi, like it was so calm and so like welcoming. I was like, I could live here for the rest of my life. Like it was just such a relaxed life that I feel like you could just feel the presence of Christ so prevalent. Like, yes, it's such a Catholic city and it's so like cool, but I don't know, being there with the people around us, it just felt so different from the United States. And I was really grateful that we got to experience that because, I mean, as you were saying, we got great experiences like culturally, like with food and music. And like we were at dinner one night and out of nowhere, we just hear some like violins start playing and people in the streets just crowding around. And I was like, you don't experience this in the United States. And I don't know, it was just such an incredible experience. And I'm like really seeing the culture live. I feel like we got the true Italian experience.
Yes, that's great. I want to hear about the itinerary too in a minute. All right, Nathan, how about you traveling internationally? What was that like for you?
It was amazing, especially all the churches. I think we visited probably 3 or 4 churches a day, and they were all a lot better than churches I've seen in the U.S., I'd put it that way. But yeah, like Grayson said, the architecture was amazing, and it was all, especially Assisi, like Natalia said, it was very like homey. You could walk pretty much anywhere. All the people were so nice. We saw other pilgrims there, which is great. Danced with them, which was a ton of fun. But honestly, the food was so good, especially the gelato. I think I had gelato twice a day. It was so good. After lunch, just go get some gelato. After dinner, go get some gelato. And there's so many gelato places and they're all fantastic.
Yes.
I don't think I had a bad serving of gelato the whole trip.
There's something really unique about Italy. I think, all of the European countries are beautiful, don't get me wrong. But I think with Italy, the architecture, the climate, the history of our church, it all kind of comes together and produces this incredibly beautiful experience. So I've had the opportunity to go to Italy a few times too. And when I was a little girl, we lived in Europe for a little bit and we would travel to Italy for summer vacations sometimes. So there's just something very, very special about that country. And I have to say, I really believe it has to do with our faith and it being the center of our church. Abby, talk about your international experience.
Kind of to reiterate what everybody else was saying,
Yeah.
the food was incredible. The architecture was beautiful.
Yeah.
I really liked, we went to a little town on the way to Rome called Orvieto.
Yes.
And it was very peaceful. I think we were probably the only tourists in it. So it felt like we were locals just kind of walking around the streets, going into little stores, talking to people. I would always try and say hi to the locals or wave at them. And sometimes they looked really confused as to why some American was waving at them, but they were all super, super nice. And I really liked in Rome, you would just go down a random little side street and you would walk in the most beautiful church you've ever seen in your entire life. I think that was my favorite part. And I was saying to Father Luke and a bunch of people, like, oh, this church is my favorite. And then we would go into another one 3 hours later, and I'd say, no, this one's my favorite. Mm-hmm. I couldn't choose. They're all so beautiful.
Well, you've kind of touched, each of you, on just some highlights for you and what was the best part of the trip. But I want to kind of go deeply into that. Let's start, though, with the itinerary. Generally speaking, how many days were you there? How long did it take you to get there? And then maybe some cities along the way, and we'll kind of pass around the room with that.
Okay.
So start with you.
So in total, the trip was 10 days. We left the airport in Raleigh the afternoon of July 26th, and we came back the afternoon of August 4th.
Okay.
The first travel day was an overnight red-eye to Paris. We didn't sleep very much on that flight. We tried.
Yeah. You're teenagers. You can handle it.
And then we got to Paris. We had about 4 or 5 hours in the Paris airport, which was fun. We had some French food, and then we hopped on a flight to Italy, Rome. And then we had about a 3-hour drive from Rome to Assisi. And then we were finally there. And then we had Mass at the hotel with Father Luke, and then dinner, and then we woke up the next morning and we were ready to go.
So you were in Assisi. How long were you in Assisi?
2 nights.
So 2 nights.
2 nights.
And then to Rome after that?
Yes, and then we went to Orvieto on the way for 3 or 4 hours.
And what's the purpose of Orvieto? Why were you there for?
That was the cathedral in Orvieto, I believe, is where Father Luke said his second Mass as an ordained priest, second or third, and so it was very special to him, the little side chapel. And it was a Gothic cathedral, which is rare in Italy, so he wanted us to see it. It was very cool. It had like stripes of brick on the outside and very, very ornate and very cool.
I think we talked about this before the interview, and obviously just the 4 of you are here today, but how many students? Nathan, how many students were with you on the trip? Do you remember the number about?
It was 34 students total. Yeah. Sorry, I know it was between 30 and 40, but I don't know the exact number.
And logistically, that's a lot to manage. And Father Luke obviously was there. And shout out to Father Luke and obviously the amazing impact he's had on you guys at Cardinal Gibbons. That's so fantastic. But were there other chaperones there? Or maybe not chaperones. Were there other adults that were there that were with you on the trip?
Yeah, there were 6 other teachers from Cardinal Gibbons that went.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so have the itinerary, fly into Rome, amazing experience in every step of the way, amazing experience at the Paris airport, and then to Rome, and then Assisi 2 nights, and then Orvieto, and then Rome. When you got to Rome, what was the highlight for you during that whole experience with the Jubilee?
I think it would be the closing Mass, because we were all out in that field, and you just look around, and there'd be a bunch of Catholic youth in every single direction. Yeah. I took a video on my phone, and just looking back on that, I get like goosebumps every time because of how many Catholic youth there are there. I think it was over 1 million people attended that Mass, that one Mass, which is amazing to me that there's that many Catholics in the world that are just like me. I got to see the Pope again, which was great. He said the Mass, and his message during the homily was really good.
What was the message?
I don't remember exactly.
It was like being the light of the world.
Yeah, it was. His whole kind of theme was, what was it?
Salt of the earth.
Like, we are the salt of the earth. Yeah, things like that. Grayson got it.
He asked us, so he would switch between languages, so we only got to pick up certain amounts of it. And I think a few of us saw all of us saw quotes after, so we got to figure out more. Yeah. But he talked about how we all have a burning question in our hearts, and that's what is the meaning of life, and just stuff like that. He talked about, obviously the theme for the Jubilee was hope, and how Jesus is our hope, and also that us, the younger generation, gives him hope for a better world. I forget the exact quote, but it was really good and really inspiring.
So hope, the message of hope. How do you internalize that now, Grayson? And how are you going to take concrete steps to bring that hope to your peers and those that you encounter in the world? What would you say?
Yeah, that was something I was praying about throughout a lot of the trip, because I think evangelization is something that's much needed in this world, and it's something that's really hard to do as well. But yeah, coming back home, I've just I think the importance of living out your faith publicly, it's something that I've thought of for a while and have heard talks where it's oh, you need to live a public faith life and stuff like that. And a lot of the times I think yeah, I'm living a public faith life. I'm not hiding my faith or anything. If I'm going to confession instead of going to lunch or something like that, it's not like I'm going to hide that from my friends. But then it's also there are areas where we might be hiding it where for example, you see someone doing something that wouldn't represent the Catholic faith well. A lot of the times we'll kind of just blend into the crowd that's watching them doing it and laughing, thinking it's funny or something like that. But also one of his messages that the Pope said is that we need to, I don't remember exactly how he said it. I think this is actually more so what Carlo Acuti said, but we need to go against the tide, and that as Catholics, we're not necessarily supposed to fit in. So so often as a teenager, you're trying to fit in and stuff like that. But the thing is we're not supposed to fit in. It is okay if we call someone out for something and people look at us differently for it. It's part of our faith, and it is going to bring others closer to Christ.
Yeah, Carlos Acutis, what a great mention of him too. Just yesterday I was in the grocery store at Wegmans, and there was a young lady self-checkout, and she was monitoring the cashiers or the cash registers, and she had a cross on. And I said, I really like that you're wearing a cross as a young lady. Is it hard for you? And first she said, oh, thank you. And I said, is it hard for you to live out your faith with the current culture that we're encountering right now? And she said, no. She said, I make a choice to surround myself with people that are choosing to live the faith. That's number one for her. But when I encounter people that are not, I'm not afraid of them. And she mentioned, she's a Christian, so she goes to a Christian church somewhere in Raleigh. And she said, we have this great night of youth, and I have a friend that I knew really would need something like this. So I invited her, and she's been coming with me for over a year now, and she really likes it. So not only staying away from things that that are wrong, but also inviting people in, I think, would be a good thing to do too.
Sure.
So what kind of experience really stands out for you, Natalia? With Mass or talks? Did they have talks? I don't even know. Did they have breakout talks?
We did have on the U.S. gathering.
Okay.
Two major. It was basically like a panel almost, not really, but somebody from each kind of vocation that is open. We would have a priest come up, a married couple come up. Sister Mary Grace came up, which Grayson and I'm a huge fan. I absolutely love her. She has great talks. My sister actually in January went to Seek in Salt Lake City, and she listened to her talk and met her. And
well, for our listeners that might not be familiar with her, who is she?
Yeah, so Sister Mary Grace is a sister from the Sisters of Life, and she is kind of around the same circle as Father Mike Schmitz and all that stuff in Ascension Press. But she just has incredible talks. She's little Australian sister, and she's just incredible, and listening to her speak is super inspiring, as a young woman who I feel normally we don't see that vocation a lot, at least in the United States. I saw a lot more sisters down in Rome, but we talk about it, we see priests all the time, but we don't necessarily see religious sisters all the time. So seeing her live out her faith as somebody who is I don't know, you can see her as a cool girl, and she's living out her vocation is super inspiring. But kind of one of my biggest God moments from this trip was my sister went to Seek, which is a Catholic convention really for college students in the United States, and they'll have a lot of keynote speakers and Mass and adoration, all that. And Sister Mary Grace had a keynote speech, and afterwards my sister wanted to go meet her, but the line was super long, and I don't know how she ended up finding her in in just a random corner, and she was oh my goodness, love your talks, and they took a picture and all that, and they talked a bit. And she asked her if, if she was discerning or if she was thinking about, religious life. She said, not necessarily, but my sister's very open to it and all that. And at the time, it was just something that was kind of floating around my head. And she was like, you know what? She's told her that I was going to the Jubilee, and she was like, I'll be praying for her. That happened. I was like, wow, that's so cool. And one day after the papal audience, I think it was, Wednesday morning after the papal audience, we all go to Mass, and we're sitting like in the back pews, and Grayson turns to me and he's like, Natalia, look back. And we turn around, and Sister Mary Grace was just there walking, like looking at the church because Mass hadn't started yet, with one of her other like fellow sisters of life. And we ran out of our pew, like jumped over some people, were like, Sister Mary Grace, like what are the odds that we're seeing her at this Mass? And I think in that moment, it was just such a reminder to, while maybe I don't like necessarily feel right now like to be called to sisterhood, but just the fact that I should be open to His will. I feel like that was one of the major like themes of my pilgrimage, and just desiring His will. It was just kind of like a common theme. And even like, and when we went to confession, like the dreams. Yeah, our priest kind of talked about dreaming with God and dreaming alongside Him, and seeing how we're going to be most fulfilled when we begin to desire His will. So I just think that was like an incredible moment of being like, wow, like she's right there, and like what is the connection? What are the odds that I see her right there? And just being open to God's will, no matter where it is that He may be calling me, and understanding that it can change at any moment, but if I just trust in Him, I know that I'm going to end up exactly where I need to be.
Okay, so we can just stop the interview at this point now. No, so good. You know, Catholic means universal, right? Mm-hmm. So by going to Rome and being surrounded by so many different Catholics from all over the world, you're seeing front and center the universality of our church, which is so incredible. Nathan, you talked a little bit about the dancing, I guess, with the other pilgrims, and how cool that was. And this is definitely going to be something that you never, ever forget. But talk about that, the universality of our church, and how it was made present in your experience in Rome, how that impacted you, just seeing so many people from all over the world.
Yeah, it was really great to see people from like a ton of countries around the world, like even flags I didn't even know what they were.
I was going to say, how did they identify?
So
it was a
most
flag.
groups would like hold up a flag.
Okay.
Yeah, but going back to the dancing, I still remember one time in Assisi, we came out of Mass at, was it St. Clair's Basilica?
Yeah.
It was Porziuncola.
Was it?
No, that was...
No, that was...
That was...
Sorry, different time. And a group of Brazilians were standing like in a circle. Okay. Some of them had guitars, some of them had drums, and then other people were dancing around in a circle.
Around like a fountain.
Yeah, it was around a fountain, and we just joined right in, and everybody was so happy. Like, they weren't trying to push anybody out. They were letting everybody in. I mean,
we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, we didn't know at all. And it was pretty easy to pick up, but it was a ton of fun. And then another time in Rome, we had just finished the Holy Steps, and we come out, and there's
wait, don't stop there.
Yeah.
Holy Steps, what are they? For
the
people
Holy
that
Steps
are that might not know.
the steps that Jesus walked up to get condemned.
And they had them moved to Rome?
Yeah, they had to move to Rome, and then you'd walk up on your knees, and it was an amazing experience.
So you did that?
Yeah,
good for you.
Everybody did it,
yes,
yeah.
That's
it was
great.
so powerful.
And very painful, too. You offer up that suffering.
Yeah, but it was worth it, though.
Yes, for sure.
Very powerful.
So if you're just tuning in, this is Ellen White with FaithWorks on Divine Mercy Radio. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Abby, Nathaniel, Natalia, and Grayson from Cardinal Gibbons High School. Did I say it right?
Just Nathan.
What did I say?
Nathan.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
I like Nathaniel better. About their experience at the youth, the Jubilee of Hope for the Youth in Rome recently, and we are grateful for our show's sponsor, Thales College. Wow. Okay, so obviously, I mean, I can tell I'm feeding off of this deepening of your faith experience, but I still want to ask it. Did you specifically experience a change or a deepening in your faith in any way, and why? What would you attribute that to, Abby?
I would say 100%. I don't think it was after one specific thing. I think it was the buildup and the, like, everything added together, like little experience after little, well, they weren't little experiences, but everything put together, it was really moving to see, especially the people that we went with, seeing everybody grow deeper in their faith together, but also people from all over the world that, you know, I met for 25 minutes and may never see again, but I know that they had a big impact on my life, and I hope I, did on them as well. But yeah, it was incredible.
How did it change it, though? How did it change your faith? What would you say tangibly?
I would say I realized that it was bigger than Raleigh, North Carolina, the faith was, and I realized that how many people share the same faith and believe in the same things, and it really kind of drives home the realness of the church and the truth behind everything we say and we believe in and we experience every day.
How about you, Grayson? What do you think?
Being there, I think, helped me become more reverent for, one, the Eucharist, but just the faith as a whole, take it all more seriously, because I think that's something that we lack in America, to be honest. So being there is just like, you'd go up to receive the Eucharist, and like, it was kind of funny, but there's good reason behind it. When they're distributing Eucharist, some people would go up with their hands and they go like, no, like they would gesture at us and then put it in our mouths. And I think that's to stop people from like taking it and disrespecting it, or it's not necessarily against the practice of receiving with hands, but just, it's a change from America because it's a lot more traditional, to be honest. So that was really cool to see, and like see all the other youth doing the same things. Like sometimes you might think like, oh, this is more for old people or something like that, but like the youth was all practicing in the way it's supposed to be practiced as well.
That is beautiful. How about you, Natalia?
I agree with Grayson on the whole aspect, like the reverence and the tradition behind it. I think a lot of the time we grow up hearing all these things about our faith and all these truths about our faith, but seeing them right in front of us, like seeing the tombs of all these saints that played such important roles in church history, was incredibly impactful. And I think I realized, again, just like the tradition behind it, like the truth behind it, seeing it so tangibly and being like, I am literally looking at the successor of Peter, like drive past me, was so incredible. And just that reverence and that silence in that final mass, being like, we are all here to receive Jesus, and we're all here listening in different languages, but I know what part of the mass I'm in. Like that, the same thing you were saying, universality. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but understanding that maybe I didn't understand it always. I'm bilingual, so I speak Spanish. So sometimes I was like translating for the people around me, like what the Pope was saying during the Spanish part of the homily, or like sometimes I'd understand a little bit of Italian here and there, but it was just so incredible. Like truly, you feel the presence of Christ in the entire city, and just that joy is radiating. So just understanding that I can bring that back here. And right when we came back, actually on our flight back, we had mass every single day of the trip, which was so incredible. And it's like, I want to continue that always and be attending daily mass, because it's like, why would I not take every opportunity to receive Jesus? But we had mass in the Paris airport. Yes, in the Paris airport, literally just like in a little gate in the corner.
That Father Luke did.
Yep.
Wow.
And coming from the final mass that we had with the Pope with a million other youth, like the Pope consecrating the host, to Father Luke and knowing it's still Jesus, it's the same Jesus present in that Eucharist, was so impactful. And understanding that maybe we're not going to feel that incredible ornate feeling of all these like churches and all, like literally we were talking about kind of becoming like, I don't know, what was the word we were using? Like when we would go into church,
Sensitized?
Like desensitized to like the beauty and the architecture that we were witnessing, because it was like every moment you just turn around and it's like, wow. But knowing that I'm coming back home, and maybe, our churches aren't as like ornate and grandiose, but it's like the same truth and the same Jesus is present here, and like just continuing to live out that faith, I think was the biggest thing I took from this trip.
Beautiful. Okay, wrapping up this discussion on faith and community. Did any of you make any new friendships or connections that you think will last?
So me, Nathan, and one other friend had a way to make friends. There was a ton of people from Spain, and you could tell they were from Spain because all of them wore the Spain flag around their waist like a skirt. So we actually came up with a song, and it
Can you sing it?
No.
I would prefer not to sing it on here, but we would just walk up to them and be like, you guys are from Spain, we have a song for people from Spain. And then we would sing our song, and it would just like, it would make them laugh, and it would make it so easy to talk to them, because like we just like embarrass ourselves in front of them, to be honest. Like none of us have good singing voices. The lyrics were a little bit weird, but it made it so easy to make those friendships, and like
Yeah.
we would like follow them on Instagram or stuff like that after. It's like, I don't think you can expect to like be best friends with everyone you meet and keep up with them, but
Right.
I think the point of Instagram is like you can kind of like see what they're up to without having to be in like constant conversation with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just really amazing to meet all those people, and yeah.
And connect that way and keep
Oh,
it
yeah.
going. What do you think, Nathaniel? Same with the friendships.
Yeah. Also,
Nathan, sorry.
it's all good. Don't worry about it. Mostly everything we went to, there was a line for it, and most of the other people were other groups of pilgrims. So just being able to talk to them in those lines, like the line for confession, I met a girl from England. We had a nice little conversation there, and just waiting in lines to go into churches. I mean, you turn around and be like, "Oh, where are you from?" And then you start talking, and everybody was so nice. Like everybody wanted to talk to you. No one was really like, "Oh, I don't want to have a conversation with you." Everybody was so open, and yeah, it was really great.
So challenges from the experience, it could be just with maybe booking the flights and the cost of having to make the money for the trip, or just flying. Inevitably, there's a problem with flying on an airplane these days, or logistics with getting there and coordinating. What were some of the challenges that stand out with the trip?
I would say overall it was smooth. We didn't have, one girl, once we got to Rome, her suitcase was completely destroyed. We don't really know how that happened, but...
Oh, if you watch some of these guys throwing the luggage up on
well, it was just hers instead of everybody else's. So that was, but they gave it back to her with tape wrapped around it and everything. But all her clothes were intact. But other than that, I don't really think we had any issues. Our flights were always on time. Nobody missed the flight. We got through security and customs very quickly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the big thing was sleep and being tired.
Yeah.
And I think compared to a lot of other people's experiences, we were actually pretty blessed because a lot of people were staying in gyms, schools, or churches, and they were sleeping on like hardwood floor with a sleeping bag or something like that. And we were blessed to stay in hotels, but you would kind of just like walk around throughout the day and you'd like see a group of people kind of like almost taking a nap on the side of the road or stuff. So I was grateful that we got to stay in hotels because we were able to get better sleep where we could be fully energetic for the stuff we're experiencing. But I remember at the USA meetup at St. Paul outside the walls, I was like, it was probably 7 p.m. or something, and it was Bishop Robert Barron and Sister Mary Grace talking. Two people were like, I've listened to their talks before online and stuff, but I've never got to experience it live. And I wanted to pay attention so bad, but I could not keep my eyes open.
And it was hot in there too.
Yeah.
It was a really great talk from Bishop Barron, but I was like, my head was bobbing and I could like hear what he was saying, but yeah.
So all of you are drawn to Bishop Barron.
Yeah, his
You
talk was
appreciate-
amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Could you reiterate what it was that he talked about?
No.
Yeah, I can for this one actually. One of the key points he made was idolizing money, material goods, celebrities, the people around us over God. And when we do that, those things become our gods. And I think it was a huge reality check for me because sometimes I do that. And just looking back is like, oh my gosh, I need to put more attention towards prayer, be more intentional in my prayer, rather than just, always wanting material goods or, money, things like that. It was really just eye-opening for me personally.
Anybody else comments about Bishop Barron's talk when you weren't nodding off? Maybe?
I also liked what he said, that there's no successor to Nero or any of the
Roman emperors.
Roman emperors. Thank you. Yes. Like the Roman Empire is gone, but the Catholic faith is alive, and we're looking at the successor of Peter, and the papacy will continue.
Yeah.
And I think that was really powerful.
The gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what. And to your point, too, about wanting to shift your focus away from things of the world, something that has been tremendously helpful to me is focusing on saints' lives and saint of the day. And there are certain apps or whatever you can search and look at who's the saint of the day and really reflect on that. There are books out there, too, on different saints that are helpful. So if you're focusing on people that lived like you and I are living in the world, and how they used whatever gifts and talents God has given them to be a light, salt of the earth, that might be helpful. Just a little insight there.
Actually, can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
I think another key thing that I was just so in shock by is I feel like I've never utilized, I guess not, I don't want to say utilize the saints, but been intentional with asking the saints for their intercession. I don't know. That's just never been something that was really instilled in me, and I never really understood it that well. But being there at the tomb of these saints and understanding and learning about their stories, I think Carlo's visiting Carlo was the most impactful thing. That's the first millennial soon to be saint, and seeing him we waited in that line for so long, and then it was literally 2 seconds that we just saw him, but it was one of the most impactful things ever. And I think that's a major thing that I took away from it was understanding the lives of the saints and seeing how helpful they can be in my prayer life, and through their intercession, that can be so helpful. And just yesterday, I went to daily mass, and I think it was the feast of St. Clare.
Yes.
And we saw the tomb of St. Clare. And again, going back to Bishop Barron's talk about not idolizing material goods, she came from such a wealthy family and left it all to give her life to Jesus. And coming back to Raleigh and coming to mass and be I would have never thought twice about it's the feast of St. Clare. But to be I saw her tomb, I walk the same ground as her almost, that's just incredible to me. And I think that's something I'll definitely be taking away more and utilizing more.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Carlos Acutis too, and I'm thinking about what he promulgated. He was such a big proponent of the Eucharist and sharing about the Eucharistic miracles all over the world. And if you're not familiar with Carlos Acutis, you might not have been listening to the news lately, but if you Google him, you can see something that he put together about all of the Eucharistic miracles all over the world. And isn't it just like God? I mean, when there was such a time in our church where there were people in the church that didn't believe in the true presence of Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. And now we have this first millennial saint that really put this forth in the Eucharistic miracles that are associated with it. So, yeah, great mention about that. Mm-hmm. And utilizing the saints for our intercession. We have so many friends in heaven, saints and angels that are here to help us. And our guardian angels, too. You can't remember, or you can't forget about your guardian angel, too. All right, so we have just, maybe 10 minutes left for the interview. Looking forward, I want to talk about, and then in closing. So, how has this trip inspired you to live out your faith more actively here? Who wants to start? Grayson, how about you?
Oh. Okay, well, first I'll start with, so at the beginning of the trip, I wrote down my prayer intentions. That's personal prayer intentions, and then prayer intentions for other people that I wanted to pray throughout the whole trip. And, some of them I prayed through while walking through Holy Doors. We got the chance to walk through 4 Holy Doors, which was absolutely amazing, and you only get a chance to do it once every 25 years. So the fact that we were at an age that we were possible to go on this trip and do it was really cool. But it felt like I got a lot of clarity on those prayer intentions, whether that be what we talked about earlier with evangelization and calling others closer to the faith. I also, another thing that I've overlooked before is trusting in God. You see so many Bible verses about it, or people are it's very stressed, trusting in God, and I think it should be. And I feel like sometimes some Bible verses will pop up and they'll kind of just keep popping up, and I'm I feel like God is trying to tell me something. And one of those Bible verses is Proverbs 3:5-6, which we actually went over through at a Bible study last week. And then it showed up on a car freshener I got. It's little things like that, and it's, I might not be totally right, but it's trust in the Lord your God with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Something. He will make your path straight. But I feel like Bishop Robert Barron's talk, as Nathan was talking about, it kind of called me out because so often I do worry about my future and thinking about money. When I get out of college, I want to have enough money that I can buy this. And then also things about things that are good intentions where it's providing for my family. It's I have this desire to get money so I can provide for my family, but then Bishop Robert Barron called out if that's overtaking God's place in your life, then that's a bad thing. So I think it kind of realized I tell myself all the time yeah, I trust God, but then some of my actions might not be showing it as much as they should be, and that like if I do trust God, then I need to set all these worries aside, stop worrying about these, and like focus solely on God, because when I focus solely on God, like He knows what's best for me, and then His will play out for me, which is ultimately what we all want.
Padre Pio. I don't know if you're familiar with Padre Pio.
We saw his
My
gloves.
mom loves him.
Yeah.
Like-
So in the message, pray, hope, and don't worry. So he's a good one for that. So you might be getting tapped on the shoulder. I've always recognized, and long story, I'm not going to go into it, but there's someone that talks a lot about how saints find you. You don't find them. And Padre Pio might be popping up in your life in a little bit. So, okay. How about you?
I definitely agree with like the theme of surrender and allowing God to take control of our lives, and understanding that like that hardship that we're maybe feeling at sometimes, or that uncertainty, like it's all very intentional, and every season is so intentional. And sometimes we're doing it all right by the book, doing our daily Bible study, attending daily mass, all that stuff. And we're not feeling that like on fire feeling that we might have felt like when I was initially starting up in my faith, and understanding that all of that is intentional, and all of that is just as impactful as when I'm in a bit massive adoration with everybody and I'm just like feeling the Holy Spirit working through me. Like everything is intentional, and that silence, and sometimes just allowing Christ to speak through us and like to us through very weird things. We had pilgrim partners. So one night after dinner, we got set up with somebody we had like small groups within our massive 34 student group. And we got paired up with somebody from another small group, like just at random. And we had a 10-minute walk home or back to the hotel. And they just kind of gave us some prompts about like how our pilgrimage was going so far, or experience, stuff like that. And, I got paired up with Enzo. We've known each other through like student council and other things like that, but we've never really spoken that much. One of the best experiences, like I think one of the top 5 experiences from the entire trip, like the entire pilgrimage, speaking with him and seeing how we all have like separate like friend groups within the big group. Everyone kind of like gravitates towards their own people, but seeing how Christ connected us in that moment, and seeing how like Jesus was working so intentionally in his life and also working in mine, and being able to close in prayer together at the end of that night was just such a reminder that sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe this might not be the group to share my faith with as openly, or talk about Christ as openly as maybe my spiritual life group. But no, like we're planting seeds everywhere that we go. And I remember we got a prayer card from Pope Francis before he passed about the Jubilee and like the year of hope. And one of them was to be tireless cultivators of the seeds of the gospel. Like it was part of the prayer. And I remember praying it a lot at the beginning. It kind of fell off a little bit. My bad on that. But just thinking about that and seeing how we're planting seeds everywhere we go. And now that we're back here, like understanding that we can take these experiences and like embed them in people. And even though we might not see it in that moment, like it takes time to grow a tree, and understanding that Christ is continuing to nurture that, like was just so rewarding. And I don't know. And it was just great to see how I was able to form really great connections with people within my own group. And I think that's my major takeaway.
It takes time to grow a tree. And nothing is wasted with God either. How about Nathan? Do you have any comments to add to that before we wrap up?
Repeat the question.
I knew you were going to say that, and I knew I was going to have to go looking for it.
Like, what's your takeaway?
Yes, takeaway.
My major takeaway from the trip, especially coming back, I felt a lot more calm. Just from all the talks that the Pope had, and Bishop Barron, Sister Mary Grace, I just like it. I know that God has a plan for me, and just knowing that, especially with senior year coming up, college apps, things like that, it's brought me a lot of peace to know that, what, I'm gonna get through it. Going on that trip helped me grow my faith so much. I feel like I'm on fire for my faith right now. I'm trying to go to daily mass as much as I can, adoration, praying my rosary, and just those things have all brought me so much peace. And yeah. And then another thing is humility. We visited Mary Major, the church where Pope Francis is buried, and just to see his tomb compared to all the popes at St. Peter's, where they've got, statues and gold around their tombs and things like that, and his is just kind of a slab on the ground with just Francis on there. He truly like embodied how to live as a person, how to live in humility, and I think that is something that's so big for me. Not always trying to seek attention, but lead by example, or lead by, sometimes you got to be in the back and you don't always have to be at the front. I think that was a huge thing for me too.
How about you?
So one of the things that Mr. Blanton, one of our teachers on the trip, said to us on the last day was, how are you going to bring this experience back to Gibbons and back to your friends at home, and really light Gibbons on fire with what you guys have seen here? And that was something that we all kind of thought a lot about, and how to do it, because, not everybody is very open to the faith at all times. And so it's just something that sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No.
So bringing the faith and the experiences that we experienced back to Gibbons, we have Encounter once a week, our Bible study. We're trying to do more holy hours of adoration and talks and singing, and it really just brings the life that we experienced to others, and showing others that the church is alive. We got to see it firsthand, but starting in your own community is so important, because that's how you move a mountain.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. So how can listeners follow your journey or learn more about Cardinal Gibbons and your trip? Is there a way to follow what you guys have done?
Well,
There might be something on the website. I'm not exactly sure, but
Okay.
or go follow Father Luke on Instagram.
Yes.
Father Luke.
we're
on
trying to get
Instagram.
our spiritual
Okay.
life Instagram back up, because apparently there's too many Gibbons Instagrams, and I don't know
Okay.
why spiritual life got
Fingers
shut down.
crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers
So
crossed.
we're working on getting that back up
Okay,
for
so
sure.
for now, Father Luke's Instagram
Oh,
account
cool.
from Cardinal Gibbons.
Yep.
He's the
Card-
spiritual
um,
director
I can
out there.
pull it up.
And then also CGHSNC is the Instagram for Cardinal Gibbons, and they posted probably about 3 posts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you are interested in Cardinal Gibbons, one, there's obviously, you can set yourself up for a tour with our admissions team. But also we do daily mass, and I'm not sure what the policy is for new visitors, but I
Okay.
think you can check in at the front desk.
For Mass.
And yeah, for mass. So if you'd like to go to that.
Okay, I think
Yep.
we've got it. Go
And
ahead.
Father Luke's Instagram account is luke.rawicki.lc.
Say that again.
luke.rawicki.lc.
How do you spell that?
luke.rawicki.lc.
There you go. Okay.
So-
Wow. Thank you so much, all of you, Abby, Nathan, Natalia, and Grayson, for coming in and sharing your amazing experience from the Jubilee of Youth in Rome. It's inspiring to hear how your faith has been strengthened and how you've grown through this pilgrimage. We wish you all the best as you bring that spirit back to your school and your community, and on and on and on into the future. If you missed any part of this episode or want to catch up on past conversations filled with inspiration and hope, you can find them at divinemercyradio.org. Just click on local shows. And don't forget, you can take FaithWorks with you wherever you go. Just download the free Divine Mercy Radio app from your app store. Simply search Divine Mercy Radio NC, and you're all set to listen anytime, anywhere. Until next time, keep living your faith boldly, because faith works. God bless.